problem with. I promise you that shit.
Listen to the word. Garbage. A joke. Clown acts. Pisses me off. No. Come find me. No. Come find me. Listen to the word. Come find me. Garbage. A joke. Clown acts. Pisses me off.
I ain't hard guy to find. I promise you that shit.
Listen to the word. Garbage. A joke. Clown acts. Pisses me off. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to Nothing But Rants, or as we like to call it around here, NBR, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. It's been a while. Like this one right here. There's a lot of things I find that, in life, right, we struggle with as humans, one of which is change, right? I feel like anything new, anything foreign to us, we have kind of a problem with, whether it be fear or anxiety that comes with something new, or whether it be just a lack or an inability to actually handle the new task or the new environment or whatever you're placed in that is new, right? That anxiety, that fear that comes with, I think that's all of us. We all struggle with new environments. We all struggle with new tasks. We all struggle with things that we are not comfortable with, right? That's why it's called comfortable. You get comfortable with things that aren't necessarily new, right? You get accustomed to them. So when you hear a college football coach say that they are essentially starting anew every single week with 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-olds, you should hold note to that. Okay. When you hear your head football coach say that there is zero overlap between 1 week into the other in terms of game plan, terminology, and just how they are going about their calls and their playbook, you should pay attention to that because this is rare. Okay, how rare is this? Well, there's one guy really in the NFL, the premier of leagues where the coaches of coaches go to coach. There's one guy that's kind of known for being very, very schematically diverse week in and week out, changing his playbook week in and week out, changing his terminology week in and week out. There's one guy in the NFL that does that. Everybody else is kind of who they are week in and week out. They just play their system. They might adapt it here and there, but they don't change everything entirely. Calls are the same. Fronts are the same. We play this the same every single week. We see this, we get into this. That's how it is in the NFL, except for one football coach. His name is Bill Belichick, and he's arguably the greatest defensive mind the NFL has ever seen. So when you hear this audio clip,
I want to minimize what our team is doing right now in terms of commitment to practice and toughness and doing things the right way. I'm really proud of them, and I think people take it for granted sometimes. It's hard to do what they've been doing.
Coach, when you say there's no overlap, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Are you saying there's complete different terminology week in and week out for
the calls don't overlap. One's a traditional, NFL type offense, and then you got a wide split, spread out, and then you got air raid. There's nothing alike. There's no overlap whatsoever. We had 7 or 8 calls that we don't use all year. And so what's happening is, like, on your young players, it's like starting over on Monday. We'll go back this Monday and go back to a little more traditional. We're playing our offense or playing Florida because Kentucky's a little more traditional. But it's harder when you do that in season. It's like playing a triple option team in the middle of the year. It's just off the beaten path. But we knew that. We knew that at the start of the season. So, we worked on it. We practiced it all week. And thought Schumann and his staff, man, they did a great job on defense now of getting some critical fourth down stops.
There you hear, week in or week out, zero overlap, right? He said at one point in that clip right there that they had 7 new calls, brand new calls to the team this week. So he's got freshmen and redshirt freshmen, guys that are it's a first year playing college football in a premier role. Okay, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, people fail to forget, this is his going on this weekend. This will be his 11th career start in college football. That's it. Smile Mondon. I mean, there was a couple weeks where he was hurt. The guy's played like 7 or 8 college football games. That's it. Kamari Lassiter, same thing. Malachi Starks, true freshman. Michael Williams played a lot this year. True freshman. These guys are starting anew every single week. Again, when your coach, this is why I reiterated the question. I had to get clarification because I knew what he was talking about. I knew what he was trying to do, but it goes on deaf ears sometimes because it's hard to quantify it, right? It's hard when your coach says there's zero overlap, for people to understand what that means. It doesn't happen. Okay, it does not. You go across the country in college football, people are the same week in and week out on film. Georgia is not. 1 week they're a man team. 1 week they're a zone team. 1 week they're an odd front, 2 back, 6, like playing nickel and playing dime all game football team. The next week they're, playing a 12 personnel team, so they hop into base personnel and live in it. Oh crap, Nolan Smith's down, so now we're going to play a lot more dime. Now we're going to play a lot more nickel. Okay, this ability to go in and out, to start completely fresh week in and week out. And again, a sport where you really only got Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to game plan, implement said game plan, and teach said game plan. That's it. There ain't a whole lot of time in college football, guys. There's this thing called a 20-hour rule, which I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. It's total BS. Okay, I hope no coaches are listening to me. I know y'all are breaking the rule because we all played. Anybody who's ever played knows the 20-hour rule is FOS. It's absolutely full of crap. But nonetheless, this ain't the NFL. Okay, these guys aren't only coming in to study film. They got a 9 a.m. English 10 lit class, right? They got they got their class schedule. They got workouts. They got weights. They got all these different, NIL arrangements and all these other things they got going on in college. They're not solely focused on football. So to be able to come in every single week and say, all right, Monday, here's what we're going to do, guys. We got to have this 100% ready to rock, flawless, no bust by Wednesday. Everybody got it? All right, let's do it. And to be able to tackle that every single week cannot and probably will not be done moving forward without Glenn Schumann. Okay, I thought that was the other thing to pick up out of that press conference right there, that one clip. I know we don't want to squeeze your football coach into a 90-second clip, but listen to it. Listen to Shu and his staff. Okay, your ability to change from week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4 and to become a different version of yourself schematically every single week is responsible. I'm not going to say is accredited to one person, but it would not be done without Glenn Schumann. I have often referred to him, and we've had people often to refer to him as kind of like a computer chipper. Okay, he can literally take whatever his game plan is. This is the beauty of his ability to coach and his transparency with which his deliverance of the knowledge, right? It's like he takes a computer chip, just unzips the back of the head of the football players and just plugs that sucker in, closes it up, and they're like, that's what we're doing this week, coach. Got it. I won't bust at all this week. His ability to take what he wants done, convey that information to his players, and then have them run it flawlessly is why you are able to do what you do, in my opinion, and based off the people that we were talking to today. That's part of the beauty of this football team, right? That's part of the beauty of this football team. It's unprecedented. His ability to change week in and week out. I'm hearing we got some breaking news right now as Daniel Harris decommitted from the University of Georgia. Not quite breaking news. In fact, I'm going to put this article out right now as we're doing live television because we've already had it prepared in the queue. So Daniel Harris, the 2023 linebacker or DB commit, has officially decommitted from Georgia. We'll talk about this briefly right now while we're on it. Guys, that 2023 class is already really, really loaded up at the defensive backfield position. Okay, I'm not going to say this isn't a loss. Don't get me wrong. It's probably looking like a flip to Penn State based off of the visits tracking. Okay, during the fall, all you have to do is track the visits, and that'll kind of tell you what all's going on with regards to interest or interest elsewhere. And Daniel Harris coming fresh off of a visit to Penn State would probably indicate that that's most likely the threat there. So there you go. Let me get a photo for this, and then guys, we can get back to our show. Gotta love it. Got to love it. There we go. All right. No author ID. People are going to be like, Buddy was really on YouTube breaking stories. Appreciate the YouTube comments for getting me on that one. Shouts out Thomas Tyson right here. I believe that's the Pope over on Discord. Shouts outs to the Holy One. All right, let's get back into NBR. Welcome in. This is NBR. We started off with a hot take right there, or rather a take that we're hot about, which is Glenn Schumann's excellence, if you will, as a defensive head coach or defensive coordinator. Also, again, think it's very, very adamant that you go back and listen to that audio clip and listen to Kirby Smart talk about Schumann and his staff. Not that Muschamp is not a defensive coordinator in his own right. Not that they don't share the titles, but I think it's very, very clear that not gonna say one's better than the other. They're both valuable, but one to me, in my opinion, gets the credit for the diversity of the schematics week in and week out. Okay, let me fire off this tweet, guys, and then we're good. Would have been nice if one of the homies in the chat would have just handled that for me. Jonathan, looking at you, bro. Just kidding. Want to take a moment, give a shout out to the homies over at the Gramco, gramco.com. Promo code Brooks25 will get you 25% off all the latest and greatest in the Delta 8 and CBD space. If you're one of those folks that likes that kind of stuff, I fell off my chair. I personally am a Delta 8 gummies person. Way too much coffee in the afternoons and in the evenings for me to get through my work schedule. Obviously, you guys know my work schedule is a little inverse of yours. While you're at work, I don't like to be on television or on your camera screens or on your phone screens. I like to let you not cheat from the man too much. So we typically go live during live, primetime footage or primetime timing rather here late nights. So my work day kind of starts when yours stops. So that's kind of the way it is in the business. So at the end of the day, I need something to kind of cool me off and cool me down. The Gramco helps me out over here with that. Gramco.com, promo code Brooks25. Again, 25% off. Also want to give a shout out, patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Some great information over there as well. Most of tonight's show, we're going to be talking about the numerous of different quotes that we received today from sources that I reached out to about tonight's topic, right? How is Georgia managing to sustain the success that they currently have? If you want to read all of these quotes, there's about a dozen of them from whether it be NFL scouts, people within the building at the University of Georgia, whether it be position coaches around the Southeastern Conference, NFL. I think I already got the NFL scouts. There are a litany and a variety of different sourced opinions inside the building, outside the building, around decision makers in the world of football over there on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. That article alone, I guarantee you, is worth your $10. Just go pay attention to it, go read it. And then on top of that, obviously, we will be doing film study this week as well, ramping up for the Kentucky matchup, and then obviously moving really, really heavy into the SEC championship game and the college football playoff as those games arrive. Wow. What a day to be here on the Film Guy Network. We got the Baxter Street Boys coming up tonight. We had the Four Wide podcast, I believe, yesterday. I don't even know. Yesterday was a complete blur coming back from Starkville. A never return on my list, by the way. I don't want to take any time out here to just clip Mississippi or the state of Mississippi or Mississippi State in general, but it is a never return. Not because of the cowbells, not because of any of that. Armpit of America, that's why. All right. Let's get into tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you, man. Super excited about it. But, as you can see in the title, I don't know about you guys. I don't know if you felt the same way I felt or have felt the same way I felt over the last couple of weeks. But through the first 10 weeks of the college football season, I think it's pretty clear that not only is Georgia the best football team in college football, but they're clearly the most least flawed team in college football. They have the least amount of question marks. They have the least amount of holes. They have the most amount of depth. They have the least amount of worries. They have the most amount of answers and least amount of questions, right? And this is all after a year in which they produced NFL talent at a historical, unprecedented rate in the modern draft era. Period. Point blank. You know it, but I'm going to repeat it anyways. Okay. Since the draft went to 7 rounds in the mid-'80s, not a single football team has put more players in one draft than the Georgia 2021 National Championship football team. Not 2019 LSU, not 2020 Alabama, not 2011 Alabama, not 2001 Miami Hurricanes. Nobody put players in the NFL at the rate in which Georgia did last year, right? You know these stats, right? And here we are, okay? 9-10 months later, in the middle of November, we've played 10 weeks of college football, and still, somehow, some way, Georgia is still the most talented and deepest football team in the damn sport. So how are they managing to seemingly reach the mountaintop and then stand on top of it and plant the damn flag on it. That's what it looks like right now. Okay. Through 10 weeks of college football, Georgia looks like the best team in the sport after losing an unprecedented amount of talent. So how is that possible? Because I'm telling you right now, this doesn't happen very often. Okay. And I don't want to count chickens before your eggs hatch, Georgia fans. If you're watching me right now, I do not want to do that for you, but I want to add some historical context to just how great and just how rare what you are currently watching. If this goes on like it is projected to do, if you win out like Vegas says you are to do, if you are indeed the favorite to win the national title, I just want you to understand how rare this is and how hard this is to do and what you are watching so you can fully absorb it and fully appreciate it. I tried to do this with your defense last year about midway through November, and everybody's like, yeah, all right, Brooks, we'll listen to you eventually. And then boom, 5 first-round draft picks, 10.6 points, best defense since 2001. Like all the accolades came a little bit midway towards the end of the season. But I'm trying to contextualize what's going on right now because the sport hasn't seen a repeat champion since 2011 and 2012. It hasn't. Okay. There's never been a repeat champ since the college football playoff has been enacted. That hasn't happened. No one's been able to manage to do it. Probably because it requires you to play 15 games 2 years in a row. You're playing 30, while at most everyone else is playing maybe 29 if they're Alabama, but this year they won't even get there. Okay. So you're playing more football games than everybody else 2 years in a row. Attrition takes into account all these things, right? Normally, national champions have a bunch of early juniors declare, as you saw last year with the University of Georgia's draft class as well. Hell, it's only happened twice since the 1950s in the sport of college football, and one of those times was by Nebraska. So that just tells you how long ago that was happening when Nebraska was good at football. Okay, so this stuff does not happen in college football. So when this stuff is happening, when you're able to stop, look around, and sniff them roses, it's important to bring these things to your audience, which is what I'm going to try to do and what I have done today on Patreon via a litany of quotes. But I'm not going to give you all of the quotes. I went through all of them today, and I summarized them, if you will, into 3 categories, one of which I added. The first 2 categories people talked about like religiously over and over and over again, okay? But the third one, I think people missed the boat. I think people are giving one area of Kirby Smart's regime way too much credit and not giving enough credit to another one that we're going to talk about here on this platform tonight. But there is no doubt, absolutely no friggin' doubt, that the number one reason the University of Georgia is as successful as they are is recruiting. It is the lifeblood of your football program. It's what matters most to your head coach. It's been the deal since day one. Since day freaking one with him, okay, it has been the deal. We are going to get great players, the best players we possibly can. And for 7 straight years in a row, the University of Georgia has finished with inside the top 3 on the consensus recruiting rankings. Unprecedented recruiting and player acquisition and stacking. Okay, absolutely. I had one coach tell me today, this is one of our favorite quotes today. I had one coach tell me today, quote, they are beating us, or excuse me, we are playing them with guys that they didn't even bother recruiting. Okay. So these are coaches on the schedule basically saying, guys, they got such a different echelon of football players that our roster didn't even get a sniff from them. And we're supposed to compete with them on an annually / semi-annually basis. Not really fair, is it, Jack? No, it isn't. Okay, I had another coach go on to say they're not really reinventing the wheel schematically. They just have better players than everybody else, right? It's very, very similar to what you heard Shane Beamer say a year ago. I don't necessarily think it's true, particularly with what they're doing this year defensively, what they're changing schematically, how their offense has evolved. I don't think this is really, I'm not going to say this is player hating, but I think this is a little disingenuous to the actual coaches that are on the staff to just say, it's all about the players. Yes, the players are the rule number one, the reason number one. Jimmy's and Joe's, not the X's and O's. We believe in that too, but it's, again, a little disingenuous to say that that's the only reason, but it is the primary reason, okay? He went on, one coach went on to say there's no magic philosophy, right, with this strategy. There's not one thing that they're doing. There's no magic trick. But I think there kind of is, okay? And hear me out. I do think there is a quote-unquote magic trick or magic philosophy that resides at the University of Georgia right now, and it is what we call that buy-in, right? You hear Kirby Smart talk about it all the time. What is buy-in? Well, I'll tell you what buy-in looks like. In 2015, the last full year of spending at the University of Georgia, athletic spending at the University of Georgia, they spent $96.2 million on the athletics program, okay? $96.2 million. In 2022, they approved a budget north of $162 million. Guys, in 5 years, no, is that 7 years? That is a net delta of $70 million. And that's after going through COVID. A net delta, we were spending 96, now we spending 160. What's happening? Well, I'll tell you what's happening, okay? That means when Dale McGee wants to go see Roderick Robinson out in San Diego on a Friday night, but they're playing in Columbia on a Saturday, okay, and it requires a private jet to land or to go from Athens to San Diego to Columbia, back to Athens, and somebody's got to pick up that bill. It don't matter. Stroke that check. Dale, go out there, see him tomorrow night, and we'll see you on Saturday when you get to Columbia. And by the way, make sure he's flipped by the time you get to Columbia. 2 weeks later, Roger Robinson's a dog. Everybody's scratching their head. How'd it happen? Well, it happened because there's very, very much so an adamancy, right? I think I just made that word. They are very adamant about player acquisition, okay? Went driving down to the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, right? On my way, what do you think I do? I stop in Valdosta. Valdosta's playing Colquitt County High School. Why wouldn't you go, right? Landon Thomas is on the field. Omar Booman White on the field. My boy Eric Brantley Jr. on the field. Nye Carr on the field. I mean, got dudes on the football field. Absolute bona fide superstars. Guess what? There was one SEC coach there on the sideline. One. Just one. Guess who it was? It was Todd Hartley. And he was there seeing commits that are already committed. Players that are already committed. Why? Because the relationship building matters, right? The going on site matters, okay? But it doesn't happen, right? You can have all the funding in the world. You can have all the ability and the name brand and the national ability to go out and get these football players. And you could be the University of Georgia where your brand is nationally known now because you've won a title. But it doesn't mean a hill of beans if you don't have the assistants willing to do such things, right? Which comes down to our second point. We talked about the recruiting. They recruit better than anybody in the sport or on par with anybody in the sport because they care about it. They prioritize it, right? They live, eat, sleep, breathe recruiting. It's been the rule number one, priority number one, ABC since Kirby's got there, right? But number two is certainly coaching. Because without a doubt, they have great coaches, right? Every other source that we talked to today, particularly the ones within the building, were raving about this coaching staff. Absolutely raving about this coaching staff. And your coach, sometimes it can be coach speak. I 100% see it. We get it. We all get beat down with it eventually, particularly during the SEC media weeks when all coaches are just absolutely talking out of their butt for like 3 days, right? But we heard him talk over and over and over again about how he believes that this is his best coaching staff ever. And he wasn't talking out of the side of his mouth. He's got some superstars. Okay, I had one source tell me today that they think Todd Monken should be considered to be the best coordinator in the sport, considering the offensive production that they are having without a true number one wide receiver. Ladd McConkey, inarguably, their best wide receiver right now, currently, correct? I love Ladd to death. Right now, third-round draft pick. Great football player. Going to play in the league. Don't get me wrong. Not a number one. Not an X. They're playing without an X. And they are arguably one of the best offenses in the sport. I would put them up there with the best offenses in the sport because they can score in a variety of ways. They can score a 70-yard end around, take it to the crib. They can score 12 plays, 75 yards. They can score no huddle. They can score in 2 minutes. They can score in 4 minutes. The only problem is they turn the football over way too much, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, at some point. But that's what it is, right? It's the coaching as well. Monken is on par with anybody in the sport. Schumann, we talked about him earlier, the computer chip, right? He is way far and above anybody in the sport. That's clear. They've been the best defense in the sport for 3 years at the Power 5 football level. Okay. I don't care if you're out here in the FCS holding opponents to 8 points per game. Don't holler at me. All right. Schumann's putting it down right now. Y'all can see that, right? And that's without mentioning guys like Will Muschamp, who's a defensive coordinator in his own right, has that safety room playing out of their mind right now. Okay, Todd Hartley and Dale McGee, if you are on this planet saying you have a better tight ends coach than Georgia, you're a stupid fan. You're not just a fan, you're a stupid fan. Same could be said for any running backs coach out there. If you think you're a better running backs coach than Dale McGee, you dumb. Okay, when it comes to player acquisition, player development, stacking them in the league, there ain't nobody doing it better than Todd Hartley and Dale McGee on one staff, and probably will be for quite some time, it seems, hopefully, if you're the University of Georgia, if you're a fan over there. Maybe not Dale, we'll talk about it as the season progresses, but right now, seems all signs are pointing to it's okay. Okay? We haven't even talked about Stacey Searles, Fran Brown, Uzo Duribe, Brian McClendon, all the 4 new coaches. Think about it. Stacey Searles took over an entire an old head room. Okay, that's a really, really old room. Broderick Jones, redshirt sophomore. Xavier Truss, senior. Cedric Van Pran, third-year guy. Warren Erickson, fourth-year guy. Warren McClendon, fourth-year guy. You see what I'm saying? These are really, really old football players who in 24 months, Stacey Searles was their 3rd football coach, guys. You think it's easy to get that football unit to play as hard as they are on Saturdays right now? No, it's not. I'm here to tell you. It's a lot of turnover, a lot of change. He had to go in there and win that room over, and he did exactly that. They're playing really, really hard. Say what you want about their execution. You guys know we will here on this channel quite a bit when it comes to the film study. But think about what he's done, right? Think about what Fran Brown's done with that defensive back room. Of course, he's getting more help as a DB's coach than anybody in the country, but guess what he is also getting? He's getting more scrutiny than any defensive backs coach in the country. No doubt about it. So there's that as well. I think he's doing an excellent job. Uzo Duribe, the outside linebackers coach, I mean, good God, how much turnover has he had to deal with this year, right? An extremely young group outside of Nolan Smith. Bobby Bill's an older football player, but hadn't got a ton of run in his college room or in his college career, right? So that room, really, really inexperienced. They've played up to par. Some would say maybe even beyond the level that they're supposed to, considering the injuries, right? And then McClendon, I've always said it this way. Look, we know the injuries. We just talked about it. We sources are the ones saying that, hey, look, like they're playing without at the receiver position right now. They're doing without at the receiver position right now. I always have said this, and I stand by this, and this may not be 100% true, but I am a proponent of watch how that room blocks, okay? Any offense with a great passing attack, their wide receivers, I bet, are selfish in the passing game as well. Or in the run game as well. I bet they block their ass off. I guarantee it. That's a sign to me of good coaching at the receiver position group. They block hard into the echo of the whistle at the receiver spot. I think that's a sign of good coaching. I think you have a great coaching staff. And again, that was number 2, right? So you got to have great recruits, but you got to have great players, obviously. But if you don't have great coaches, you're not going to develop those great players and great recruits into a hill of beans. Okay, so that's the second most important part, based off of all of the indicators that and messages that we received today. But the third one, and to me, it could arguably be right up there with recruiting. I think it's just as important, to me at least, because we are dealing with young men, right? Very, very impressionable young men. Young men that can up and leave and go somewhere else with zero consequence. Think about that, okay? I guarantee you, if you're watching this right now, if you're listening to this broadcast right now, particularly if you're of a younger age, if you're in that what am I, a millennial? If you're in that millennial age demographic, I bet right now, since you entered the workforce, you've probably already changed job titles or changed job positions or changed companies, maybe a couple of times, right? I know buddies that are doing this on the corporate ladder just to try to climb it. There's no loyalty in this business. They're going from one to the other. And then they turn around and get upset when kids do the same thing in their college careers. So in a day and age where the portal is enacted and NIL is enacted and kids are told their wealth at a much younger age, and they're very told wrong about their wealth at a very young age, or worth rather, and they're throwing all these opportunities via no downfall to transfer and all this good stuff. It's freedom of movement, all this great stuff. Culture in your program resides harder and longer than any other period in football ever. Who you are as a football team culturally will impact wins and losses nowadays and sustained success nowadays more than ever before. It's the one response, again, that I don't think I got enough. Sure, there was the occasional comments about how there's not a lot of individuals on this football team, how they play for the front, not all the back, all that good stuff. There was way too much credit for Kirby Smart's player acquisition and not near enough credit for his cultural development. Okay, and what does that mean? What is culture? I mean, really, seriously, what is it? Can you nail it down? I'll tell you what. I'm no Webster, right? I'm no Webster's dictionary. In fact, I think we've all established I ain't the brightest. Okay, we're just out here talking, and I'm a football guy. Okay, but I think I can identify culture, or at least look into it and see what's going on, because I know for a fact this is one thing I do know about culture. Everyone has one. Okay. And everyone's trying to sell theirs in this sport. Every coach during media week will stand up in front of a microphone and they will sell their program's culture. That's what they will do. So how do you define them? How do you go through and define individual cultures? Here's what I do. Here's how I evaluate whether or not you are hitting or missing the mark in your cultural developments as a football program. Right here, simply put, the void between who you tell me you are and who you want to be and who you actually are, right? That's the definition, in my opinion, or rather the evaluation of culture. When you come to the podium, Clark Lee, and you tell me that you're going every day, every Saturday, y'all are going to go out and y'all are going to compete your butt off as if you belong, and you are going to fight for 4 quarters as if you belong. And then we look up 10 weeks into the season, and by God, you are who you sold yourself to be. Check. Culture, Clark Lee. Same thing at Georgia. What is their culture, right? Who are they? Okay. Do you know exactly what they are? No, I don't. But I know, in my opinion, who they are based off who their CEO is. Georgia, more than any other program in this country, is who their head coach is. Their entire identity is wrapped around the micromanager that is Kirby Smart, for the good and for the bad. All right. It 100% is. Okay. Do you want to know why your football players love the University of Georgia? They fight, die, breathe, sleep University of Georgia. Why? Because your head football coach loves the University of Georgia. That's it. There ain't no faking that game neither. He ain't faking that stuff. He loves that football program. He loves that university. He loves that town. His football team conveys that when you watch them. They play for Georgia. They don't play for one another. That was adamant in the quotes that we displayed today. But I'll tell you the other thing that I know about Kirby Smart. Do you want to know why your football team is as competitive as they are? Because your football coach is extremely, extremely competitive. Perhaps one of my favorite quotes that we received today was this one. And we will wrap the show with this tonight, because this is one, like, it doesn't get better than this. And I think it kind of defines why y'all are where you are. Because until you find one of these, it don't matter. It doesn't matter in any other business in life. It doesn't matter in your own individual successful journey. It doesn't matter in the hill of beans in football, any sport relative. If you don't have this description of this individual who is on the top of the sport right now, I don't think there's any debates of that currently. Okay. Long story short, Kirby is the best in America at what he does. He has evolved and caught up with the times while still having a philosophy based on toughness and discipline. We practice harder and more physical than anyone in America. It's a process, plain and simple. The guy is the most competitive human I've ever met. There it is, right there. That's who your football program is. I watch them on Saturdays, and for 3 years now, we have watched them fight tooth and nail in the fourth quarter, up 30 points to keep teams out of their end zone. What is that? That's competitive nature. What is that? That's being obsessive about being perfect. What is that? That's being extremely competitive. That's being energetic about your purpose. That is being relentless in your pursuit of excellence. Insanity for excellence. That's what this football program has. It's on display every single Saturday. And honestly, okay, and this is my TED Talk of the week, and we're going to wrap it up on this. Guys, these qualities, obsessive, competitive, energetic, relentless, those words that are talked about your football coach, about the guy, again, who's on the pinnacle of the sport, those are universal traits for success. If you are obsessive about your greatness, if you are competitive about your greatness, if you are energetic about what it is that you are doing, if you are relentless in your pursuit of that excellence, you will be successful. I promise you right now, even if it means talking into a microphone in your apartment in Kennesaw for 3 straight years with no one but your mom listening. Eventually, if you are relentless in the pursuit, maybe you can have a couple 100,000 followers on Twitter and all of the good stuff one day. Appreciate y'all for coming. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out. Appreciate y'all for being here. God, it felt good to be back on NBR. Stick around right after tonight's show. I don't know when the Backstreet Street Boys are going to be ready to go. I told them to slot it for 9 o'clock. They will be here. Show up, support them. They'll have the reactions from this weekend's game against Mississippi State. I personally thought it was quite a snoozer and ended up coming out exactly as I thought it would. Appreciate you guys for being here. We will see you next time. Love ya.